Okay, you know what? Impromptu discussion based off the last video. We recently did a video just yesterday about a driver who was on a first date with a girl, and they were caught speeding, going 100 miles per hour in a residential area, almost hit a bicyclist, another person. Cop pulls him over, gives him 3 tickets, says, I could have given you more, I decided not to. Giving you guys a chance. Driver's like, thank you. They drive off. 5 minutes later, they run into a truck, both of them fatality. No one else died, thankfully, but both of those 2 died. All right. Now, a lot of people had reactions to it. I thought it was really interesting that people had all kinds of reactions to it. People who hate cops, like cops, were on all kinds of sides of the fences, and I think that's good. And the question came up of like, how much culpability does a police officer have? Because he is the one who stopped them, and then 5 minutes later, after he let them go, they ended up in that fatality. So you said he's not at fault at all.
He's not at fault.
You didn't do shit wrong, dude.
Okay. And I asked you the question. If he'd have pulled over a drunk driver and gave him a chance to let him go, and the drunk driver does something, is he at fault?
No.
Okay, why?
He's not at fault because the drunk driver did whatever the hell he did after that. As a matter of fact, no, it's not. I don't think it's the same thing as. Let me just think of it. The drunk driving thing is not the same thing as that situation right here. Okay, why? And I'm gonna explain you why. Because with that situation, the person has his sense and his moral and it's all there. Okay. Right? What a drunk driver is why we call it impaired driving. It is impaired driving because he is under the influence of a substance that impairs his ability to think for himself. If I tell you to stop, you won't stop. And I know that is different. So let me take back on that. That is a different situation.
Okay, so let's stop right there for one. So if it was a drunk driver, he is at fault.
Not at fault, but he should have done something. Yeah, he's at fault. Yeah, actually, yeah. He's at fault.
Okay. Cops have to be at fault for something. They have a job to do. You don't do your job, and something bad happens, you're at fault.
You caught someone that was impaired and you didn't do nothing, yeah, you're at fault for something.
Okay.
You could have done something.
Okay.
Yes, you should definitely get in trouble for that.
Okay.
But for the instance of the driver...
Okay. No. Okay, so we got the first one out of the way. I'm glad we at least agree on that one, because that one, I think, if we'd have fought, it would look crazy. Now for the driver that's speeding. If the driver that's speeding is almost hitting people, is recklessly driving and endangering everyone's lives, how is that so substantially different? Outside of the impairment aspect, this person judgment, they don't care about other people's lives. The laws are on the book. This person should be having their shit taken, right?
Could. What's written in the rule book is that it could. You could face up to that amount. You could have your car impounded. So it is at the discretion of the officer.
Sure.
And that's that. We're talking about the law. That's the law. And when you say impairment aside, no, we cannot put it aside. If you want to compare both, you have to put the impairment because being impaired is the absolute definer in this situation where that should let you go on. If I done gave you 3 tickets, right? I told you to slow down. The cop did whatever he had to do. The person driving was like, disregarded all that shit. Let me speed back again. It's on the fault of the kid.
So the cop didn't do what he had to do because based off the laws, he wasn't on the line. He jumped the line by a lot. I could understand it. I would agree with you. If the driver had gone 10 over the speed limit, 20, 25, I understand. He almost doubled it. That is a completely different ballpark. Not only did he almost double it in a residential area, but he almost hit and killed a bunch of people.
I understand.
Right? So the cop can't just look at it like, okay, if he hits the cyclist, right? Let's say he hits the cyclist and he kills him. The cop has a responsibility to put the person in jail, correct?
To arrest him.
Okay.
That was murder, yeah.
When you are being this dangerous, with no regard for anyone else's life, the officer has a duty to protect everyone else. If they've witnessed you, he almost hit the cop too with how reckless he was being.
All right, man. You almost struck my car because I was making a right turn.
The cop has a responsibility to the community to protect us when people break the law. That is their responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And
he didn't do that.
You can protect a person by doing a bunch of things.
Okay.
By giving tickets, by giving warnings, you have different ways of protecting the people, sure. Right? You could put the person right to jail. It's not because you protect the person, you put that person right to jail, that he's not going to get out of jail when he's supposed to get out of jail and kill someone else after that. You know what I mean? The cop did what he had to do at that point. The decision at the end of doing whatever the fuck you have to do after is on the person that did the action.
Okay, so I agree that the person who did the action is at fault. Multiple people can be at fault for these kinds of things.
Sure, but I don't think
Okay. So my point is, the job of a police officer is to manage the roadways and ensure people's safety by enforcing the laws. Yeah. He didn't choose to enforce some law. He uses discretion. My point is he uses discretion in the wrong way with somebody he should have not used that kind of discretion to that degree. He could have put that person in jail.
We only know that because he crashed after. And we always going to know that whenever what decision you're going to take about, like after that's a decision that person, the driver, takes, right? We only know that, hey, you should have used more discretion. It's easy to know after the fact. It's really easy to be like, I should have used more discretion because you crashed after. But at the moment when you do that, you really believe, yo, you understand what the fuck I'm doing? Don't do that. You think that's enough. Right. There's some people that, they should have gone the death penalty. They didn't get it. They showed leniency and they fucked up again. It is what it are. The people that were supposed to give more give more punishment at fault? No, they're not. They're not at fault. They use the law at their discretion, and it is what it is. And whatever happened, the person took the liberty to do whatever they had to do.
I would disagree. If the person is supposed to be in jail for life and you put them out in 5 years and they reoffend, yeah, I'm blaming the jury or I'm blaming whoever made the case weak or whatever it is. It depends on the circumstances. If the jury was given an ironclad case of why this guy should be in jail for life and whatever kind of sentiment they want to put into it at their discretion, they let the person out 5 years. Fuck yeah, I'm blaming the jury. I'm blaming everybody who let that motherfucker out so he can hurt other people. They're at fault. How are you not at fault when you have a responsibility and you don't take care of that responsibility? I understand that in this situation we're saying hindsight, and I don't disagree with you. If what happened initially wasn't so egregious, I would agree with you. If the guy was just going 25, I'd probably see myself giving some people some leeway. The dude was going almost triple the speed limit. We have to have a certain point where we're like, we understand there's discretion, and then no, officer, you're being irresponsible. Whatever led you to make this decision, you don't have the mental faculties to do this job because you're letting people off the hook that you shouldn't, right? If you see somebody and just because they don't murder a bunch of people, even though they came very close to you, you're like, well, listen, just don't do that next time. No, there has to be a bit of a further reflection. And I think also, in my opinion, the only reason why people, I think a large majority of people feel okay about this incident is just because this man didn't kill a bunch of innocent people. I have a hard time believing that if this man had murdered 5 people, that people would say the officer didn't have some culpability in not putting that person off the road. Mind you, they're on a provisional license. They're not even allowed to drive at that hour.
Listen, you're getting 3 tickets. I could have given you a lot more, okay? You're not even supposed to be driving at this time because you have a provisional license. Oh my God.
They're not allowed. That's illegal. Yes, he should be in jail.
Fair.
Driving unaccompanied.
No, he should be impounded.
No, because of the speed that he was going at, he's in jail.
Oh.
Yeah, that's so after a certain threshold, yeah. I think like 30 miles per hour over, once you're about that point, then I think you start going into jail territory. Also, the other multiple offenses that are involved. I guess what I'm just trying to say is, we put these laws and then we give officer a gray zone. I think that what this person did operated far outside of that gray zone. What this person did was so fucking fast and so egregious that that's a point where I think the officer has to be like, I want to give you a chance, but I just can't. That's my personal opinion.
Fair. We could agree on that.
Yeah. And I know I saw a lot of people commenting. I think it's okay if people say, listen, I don't want to blame the officer too much. Neither do I. I'm not here to say like, officer piece of shit. I'm just saying there are times where I think we should look at people and say, you're not supposed to give these people a chance. Sometimes that's a problem that we have in our justice system. As punitive as it can be, sometimes they give people too many chances.
True.
And with certain crimes, it's just like, why is this person on the street?
Especially here.
They've robbed people 3 times in a couple of weeks. How many more chances you can give this motherfucker? How many more people have to be traumatized, right?
Some people that have been caught on DUI for 8 times.
Yes.
And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
8 times!
Like you're on a provisional.
How?
You're on a provisional license. This is the point in your life where you're supposed to be driving accordingly. Not only do you not have the person who's supposed to be accompanying you when you're driving, you're not only are you driving in the hours you're not supposed to. You're driving like that. That's the time when you're on probation. Are you supposed to be given all the leeway in the world to fuck up as much as you want?
No.
That's what a probation period is for.
That's what a probation period is.
So I think those are all things that I factor in when I look at the judgment. I'm not here to say I don't want to be a hindsight Captain Andy. But 100 miles per hour, when I know what that is in kilometers, you're driving faster than what people driving in the fast lane on the highway. 140, that's faster than what people do in the fast lane on the highway.
By a lot.
And he died going 200.
It was later determined that the vehicle was traveling in excess of 124 miles per hour.
200 kilometers per hour, 120. That is terrifying. So you know how he actually passed away?
Huh.
So the drug...
Oh, yeah, I know how he passed away. He hit the cart and it went under.
Yeah, but the road apparently. So there's someone who pulled.
Yeah. The first comment that you pinned.
Yeah, super interesting. So apparently this place has a lot of like trucks, like different
Semis.
that transport goods all over the country. So they have to back out into the street. So what had happened was this car had already backed out completely. So that the whole street was blocked. They had nowhere else to go, but they were going so fast it couldn't brake because they were going 200 kilometers per hour.
And it's gonna take a long time for you to brake at that time.
So they see this thing, they can't stop, so they just run right underneath.
And they're on the incline.
Yeah. It's a tragic thing that happened, but I think it raised a lot of good questions, you know, and it's important to not look at the situations like, oh, who can we blame or whatever. I think it's an interesting talking point. But at the end of the day, I think what really matters is that drivers who have the most amount of culpability and the most amount of responsibility, you have to take that stuff seriously. I know a lot of people think they're going to get away. Oh, it's never going to be me. It's never going to be me. And then oftentimes it ends up being you at some point.
So percentage.
Go for it.
Percentage, I'm asking you.
Of?
Who's guilty? At what percentage? The cops guilty at what percentage?
I don't look at it like guilty in the whole incident. I say, to what degree do I think the cop did his job?
Percentage.
So if I had to say what percentage the cop did his job, I would say at that point, I'd give him like a 30%.
30%?
Of how much he did his job, yeah.
Fair.
30%. I think him stopping them, him having that conversation, that's already quite good. But I think him letting him off the hook is a pretty big failure.
Even 50 is not even, you wouldn't give him 50? He did half of his job?
No, because his job is to protect the community and he failed.
At 50%, you're failing.
Yeah.
At 50, you're failing.
Yeah, but
my passing grade was 60.
But see,
he had to do this much and impound him. 10% more, he would have done his job. At 50, you fail.
I'll explain why I say even less than that. Because in my head, it's not like he just failed. He failed by a lot because of how egregious what the kid was doing was.
Sure.
That's why I give him a 30.
Okay.
But the driver, the kid, 100%. You're not so young. You're not a 17-year-old. You're 23. Yeah, you're going to definitely own all the responsibility. And also the girl. The girl's going to own some responsibility. I know you're a passenger, but yeah, if you see someone doing something that illegal and you just sit in the car and chill out, you had chances to get out. You had chances to reprimand the person. You just sat there.
It's my fault. It's really my fault. I swear.
It's not your fault, because if he gets into an accident, it's his fault.
No, it's my fault.
Listen, you're getting 3 tickets. I could have given you a lot more.
So I'm going to give her like 10, 15%. That's what I'll say. But most of yeah. Especially at that age, people are very impressionable. You can egg someone on. You can dissuade them too. So I don't know. Yeah. It's like saying this, right? If you get in the car with a drunk driver and you know they're drunk and you don't stop them, you don't dissuade them, how much culpability do you have? That's why I said 10, 15. 15, 20?
50.
50%. Ooh, okay, that's a hot take.
Like, you know everything is going on.
Yeah.
You know what happened when you're drunk.
Okay.
You know the person is drunk. All of these steps of the way you didn't say shit.
Yeah.
You didn't. The person is trying, and you just stay there in silence while you're in the car.
Yeah.
So you can get injured. The person can get injured. A whole bunch of people can. And the only person in connivance of that is not even that person, because that person is impaired.
Yeah.
Is you.
Got you.
If both of y'all are impaired,
Even then.
But even then, I wouldn't give it. If both of y'all are impaired, I wouldn't give it 50%. But still, it's like I'd say you didn't say shit.
Take your friend's keys.
You take your
Take his keys. Take his keys. I've had to have some conversations with some people in my life. Take the keys. Because I don't know if you're going to be able to live with yourself if they take their own life or they take the lives of other people and you knew. Take the keys. That's how I feel about it. Yeah, these topics are always very interesting because a lot of it is very human behavior. A lot of it's speed. A lot of it's people don't follow the traffic laws perfectly. And I'm not asking for people to be perfect. Everybody who goes on the highway sees what the speed limit is and they drive 20 over, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's pretty standard for most people. But everything within a reason. Like, if you're going to be one of these racing goofies, do it when you don't have a passenger. Do it on the highway and do it when there's no traffic. At least then I could kind of be okay with it. This guy was going through a residential area. He could have ran through a house, a bunch of kids sleeping, just murdered everybody. That's how serious what he did was. 200 miles per hour, 200 kilometers per hour is an insane speed. I know because I start wanting to shit my pants at 150, 160.
You started shit your pants at the 150, 60?
I mean, like in a more like literal sense. Figuratively speaking, at 130.
You shit your pants at 130?
No, 130, I'm like, ooh, you want to go fast.
And 150, you shit your pants?
160, I'm like, oh, I might pee.
Noted.
Yeah. Don't do that shit with me.
I don't want
Unless you want to clean up.
I don't want to.
Because I'm not cleaning. I'm a shit and just, yeah. All right. All right.
I'll dookie in this whole room.
Whoa. We
dookie-
work here.
I'll dookie.
We
in this
work here.
whole
Careful.
room. I'll dookie in.
Then don't go 160.
I won't go. I said I wouldn't.
Okay.
All
All right.
What's wrong with this dude?
The guy talking about you gonna dookie in my room.
Because I
Pause.
feel like dookie.
First
What's
off,
up?
I want to see your cheeks. Pause.
You won't have to see them.
What are you doing?
Thinking it. You thinking? You have to say you thinking the shit.
Yeah, what are you doing, Peter? You taking a shit?
Yeah.
Do you like it? You taking a shit?
Nah, man. I just, yeah, y'all just gave me a lot to talk about. So keep the discussions going in the comments. And also, guys, I think it's okay to vehemently disagree with people. But even from where I'm standing in my shoes, I can also understand the other end of the spectrum where people are like, you know what? I don't think the cop deserved much. I get it. But let's not pretend like either of these takes are insane. They're not crazy.
No, they're not crazy.
They're not crazy. You know, what the cop did, it's definitely in a pretty big gray zone. What the kid did, no. But the
No.
cop,
What the kid did.
nobody loses sleep if he get fired. So, but I'm glad that he got relocated to a better place, so good for him. Anything else?
The cop guy relocated.
Yeah, I think he's like resources for kids in
I
the
ain't
school.
mad at that. Live your life.
Yeah. But let us know what you think in the comments.